the first African American woman to run here in Indiana.
Dr. Valerie McCray.
McCray.
And
Yes.
she was with us earlier. We did a part one, and now we're back to part two because it just was not enough time.
Because she didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. That's what it was. I did not want to leave.
Yes.
You know, the issues that we're dealing with during this episode really, really resonate for all of us as women. And part of, we're actually talking about how can we create solutions.
Right.
And part of the solutions is what's going to happen up in our government. So having you here to talk about some of our issues that we've been sharing with women, it is just a joy. It is a pleasure to have you and have women here. That there's change. It's right ahead of us. It's right here. It's present. It's today. It's in November. Please go vote.
Absolutely.
We're going to be greedy. We're going to just take all that we can.
Oh, goodness. It's coming both sides. You guys are feeding me. And I'm,
Yes.
it goes both ways. I tell you, it goes both ways. Thank you for having me. This is wonderful again. Yes.
So we're going to talk more about the women's reproductive issue. We just touched on it a little bit in part one, but we want to delve into that a little bit more.
Yes. Well, you know, Roe v. Wade was overturned, and here in Indiana, I don't know how it is in your state, but it's really, really repressive. It's really, really, it's a practically across the board abortion ban. There's a 6-week thing, but who knows if they're pregnant before 6 weeks, of course. So there's issues and that are compounding because we're losing OBGYN doctors, we're losing hospitals, we're losing places where women can go to get health care. So this is a major, major problem that we have to reverse at all costs. And women it caught us by surprise here because I don't think we even knew that they had legislation on the books that as soon as they overturn Roe v. Wade, that they would be able to put these things in action really rapidly. So after the initial shock comes anger.
Yes.
And now that there's anger and a little bit of hope, now there's also reaction and action. And the women are motivated to get out here and work. And they are motivated. They're getting out here. They're voting. I think we're going to see a revitalization of the voting process. People are excited. Volunteers. I will say this. Our campaign for U.S. Senate, the primary, we had very little money. But we had some magnificent volunteers, male and female, mostly female, mostly women. And we had women voting. They showed up to vote across the board in 90 of the 92 counties because women are on fire right now. They're fired up. They're ready to roll. So this is going to be an excellent, very interesting voting year.
Yes, I agree. I agree, especially right now what's in front of us. I'm so excited, especially like in my community in San Diego, California. We're actually having more Latina women take on a place. We have the highest position in the politics, not the mayor, but the other position that is such an important, the one that handles all the money. And I'm just like so proud. I am just so proud to see what is really showing up for us. So like, let's look at some of these women's issues that show up that are really important for the campaign. And of course, single motherhood is something that's out there that connects to this whole conversation, about abortion. So let's elaborate. I'll think a little bit about that. Like why some women need to have this available for us.
It's about a holistic approach to healthcare. Women know what they can handle, how much they can handle, and when they can handle that. And so that decision needs to be with that woman, and actually with her family too, because sometimes it's a family matter. Like, honey, we can't afford this right now. We've got 5, we don't have child care. Well, both of us need to work, or one of us needs to work, and a lot of times it's single mothers that, like, how are we going to handle all of this? So sometimes it's a how do we do the day to day and still with a system that's not set up for this. United States is not set up appropriately for single parents. We don't have the daycare. We don't have the infrastructure around us the way other countries have.
Right.
We have women going back to work with their still in stitches from episiotomies or cesareans because they've got to get back to work. They can't afford to be off work. The emotional pull of having to leave a tiny infant in the hands of a stranger in the first place.
Yes.
That in itself is devastating.
Yes, it is.
By the time we pack up the bag with all the formulas or all the stuff that you have to pack up for a baby, you're exhausted before you even go to work because of all these things you have to do as a single mother or even as a couple as well. It's a lot of work. Yes. Other countries get it that you need that 6 months or even up to a year to really absorb that new life coming into your family and what that takes. We in the United States could do the same, but they refuse to let that happen. They refuse to be human in our way we're doing things.
And I think that's important that you use that word human because I had a friend and she was assaulted by her sister's boyfriend, and she was young. She was a young teen, not the high teens, the young teens, right? And she told me about her experience with carrying the child and, you know, the things she used to do with herself because she resented it so much.
Yes.
And I couldn't imagine, you know, we say a whole lot of things from our perspective, but when you're in the shoes that you've been raped or in an incest relationship and a child has been produced out of it, and they don't even have the sensitivity where that's concerned.
Exactly.
That's heartbreaking. It's inhumane.
And we saw it play out here with a 10-year-old. Here in Indiana, where someone from Ohio had to bring a 10-year-old here to have an abortion that she couldn't get in Ohio. And just that whole circus of being that doctor being attacked for actually providing that care, that was sick, inhumane. We have to turn that conversation around. They've had women, because of having abortions or whatever, that conversation, they've had women on the defense. We're quiet about it. We're quiet about our decisions. We're quiet about what that entails. But in actuality, for people to actually feel like they can control or have legislation in the room with women when they're at their most vulnerable point, that is the sickness there. People thinking they should control women's lives, that is where the pathology is, not with the women themselves. Women, when they have children, they're going to take care of that child. They are the warriors. They will die or kill for their children. But those same warriors know when they're ready to go out on the battlefield, and you can't force these women to have children if they're not ready for that. It's just not the thing to do. But the problem is they have us on the defense. They have women silenced by the fact, and there's 25% of women, one in every 100 women have had an abortion, but we're not speaking up because we're silenced by the conversation that's really not even true.
We're going back to keep us barefoot and pregnant.
Oh yes,
that's pretty much
right?
It's real. It's so present, and
yes.
And your policies and what you're talking about makes so much sense because, there is those that get pregnant because of the abuse, and then those that just kind of fall in love, and then they realize, okay, what happened here, and I'm dealing with the consequence of it at a very early on age, and then there's so many women out there that are left alone with their children to be raised. And I mean, statistically, I'm going to mention that, I know that, but you just look, the outcome of those mothers alone with those children are not have a good outcome. Their
Yeah.
research shows us, and there isn't that available. I mean, they're not even talking about major prevention and higher pay and Medicare. It's just like you don't have a right. That's what really upsets
Yes.
me. You just you can't choose. I will choose for you, and I will choose how much you will learn, and I will choose to not put preventive, and I will just like, what?
But
Right.
but these are pro-lifers though, right?
Yes.
And so you're saying that you're pro-life, you're for life, right?
They're
So
pro.
you are you really pro-life, or
Yes.
or does it depend on who it is? Because if you're really pro-life, then you wouldn't gun African Americans down on the street, okay?
Exactly.
Because pro-life should be from the womb to the tomb, right? And you wouldn't okay have all of these things where you want me to have the baby, but then you don't want to provide for me
Right. No,
in
all
the
these
areas
obstacles.
that you've
Yeah.
mentioned.
And they know that's a recipe for women being in poverty,
Of
for
course.
families being in poverty. And we have to think about the quality of a person's life. We're not set up for that. And not to mention, this is another layer of this. There are so many grandparents who thought they were going to be relaxing at this time of their life. They're raising their grandkids because it's too much for their kids, or their kids are off, they have drug issues or whatever, or just that young mother needs help. So now you've got grandparents raising their children, their grandchildren, and they're exhausted and they're tired. It's
And that teenager, you don't have the energy to keep up
Oh,
with them.
yeah.
So they're going to
layers.
perpetuate, criminal activity or different things because you don't have the energy to keep that watchful eye on them.
right, creating layers of trauma.
Layers and exhaustion, anxiety, depression, and we're going to keep adding, and then women just creating different relationships. It's
Yes.
such an one thing after another.
One thing after the other.
So just to say no at something, when I hear it, for me, just bothers me. Like, no, you can't have it. You tell me that I don't have a right to my body, and you tell me I can have higher pay, and you tell me all these reasons, to stop me from my own personal growth, and it's just unacceptable.
It's sick, and
It
I like
is.
to call that's where the pathology is. These people who feel like it's their duty, right, or whatever, to legislate what happens with a woman, someone else's life, things that are none of their business. They're trying to control someone else's life, which is no, you can't do that. So we have to go to the voting polls and show them that you can't do that. We've got to put it. We're going to have to say no in a very clear way this November, especially.
So let's look at some other issues. I know we've talked about, Lisa. That would be great to share here. I know there's some things we haven't talked about they're in my space, like technology and the impact that is affecting our financial, world jobs and all of that here in this country. And kind of tempted to just quickly ask you a
Go
little bit
ahead,
about,
please do.
technology is just so impacting us at so many different levels. And I'm not going to say there's not a good part. So just there's definitely a good part, but technology has become the babysitter and has become a brain addiction for our children and for us adults.
Yeah.
And the impact that it's been having, and I am so sure that eventually is going to be part of the DSM,
Yeah,
the diagnostic manual.
That.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
It's
we
going
talked
to have
about
an
that.
impact on us. And now they're creating robots where those are going to be part of our relationship, where you can actually marry a robot. So you can create it to your liking, and
That part actually sounds good, though.
I don't want to talk to you today. Go in the closet where you belong.
Yeah,
be
we could just
quiet.
take the battery out. Yeah, take the battery out. No, I don't want to hear any more about you. Or just
Yeah, like Luce was saying, when I spoke to my clinical supervisor recently, and she was saying that in the DSM-6, that she believes that definitely technology is going to be an illness, have a diagnosis.
It can. It definitely can. We have to, those of us who are looking forward, looking to the future with this, we have to really be very ethical and think about what is going to happen in the future. The thing about it is that the funny thing is I actually got on AI, one of the AI things, and I asked, hey, AI, hello, AI, type in it. Tell me the dangers of AI. And AI is very good at telling you the dangers of AI.
That's good.
It's very clear
question.
about the problems with it. You know, the lack of privacy, the algorithms that'll keep you going to certain tracks, to the taking away jobs. It's very clear about what the AI is very smart about the problems with AI. So just everybody try this. Everybody who's listening, go to Chat GPT or whatever and type in AI. What are the dangers of AI? 30 seconds. It'll give you all of that, right? It'll tell you. And it's very clear. We really do have to be very careful how we utilize our technology. We want technology that will enhance us. But we want to make sure we don't have technology that replaces us. That's a different conversation.
Right.
That's a different story. And in places like, one of the places I've always liked to commend is New Jersey, for example, who has refused to let people pump their own gas because they realize those are jobs.
Yes.
We have to make those decisions as far as what's mentally helpful for what's healthy for our people. And how does AI and robotics, how do we enhance them as opposed to replacing people? Because then what are we going to do? And all those things are important. Not all technology, just because we can doesn't mean that we should.
Right. Exactly.
And
that's exactly what
the
I
question.
That's what she told me this morning, that they're creating an app that's going to provide therapy.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Because you're in the field yourself, and you know, a person may come in and say, okay, so you may be able to say to Chat GI or this app, I'm feeling depressed, okay? And we know from the treatment space, you may say that, but in the conversation, we're going to say, okay, well, let's talk about this route. How is an app going to pick that up?
Well,
that's really interesting.
I do believe what the app is doing, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but I do believe what the app is doing is they're teaching the app what questions to ask, and if depending on the response is then you get. So they're having experts, set up, because part of what we do, there is a conversation and then there's a question we follow up, so that through that question the person can expand about what really is there that they cannot see. So there's this style that we have in our own work of therapy that we can do that. So it's those things like, there's just so many things that are showing up and are being researched, which, there
are certain therapies I think that might be a little amenable to that, and that's just mainly your basic CBT, cognitive behavior, because that's a thought, process. If you think this, you're going to get that. But they are downplaying. The relationship is really what heals people when they are ill, mentally ill. It's the relationship that heals, not that set of questions or not those answers. And to have people open to receiving those, that takes a little time to develop that relationship of trust. There might be a place for a little bit of that, but not for a long term. If you're developing a person, crisis stuff, maybe problem solving is one thing, but when you're trying to develop or help someone be a whole human being, you can't just do that, I don't believe, with an AI or a robot assisted thing.
As I mentioned to Luz, we communicate 3 ways: in spirit, gesture, and word.
Yeah.
So you may be able to ask questions, but are you going to pick up that when I mention your mother or your father, your whole countenance just changes? Is a robot going to be able to pick that up and say, okay, we need to shift? What was that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And the compassion that we show the person in our eyes when they're speaking to us, it's that's not something a robot can do.
Absolutely.
And
It's
I
that
know
relationship.
It is a relationship. And I know I threw this off, but it's just something I know that it's in the back of my mind. And I know this is something we're going to be seeing. And I do believe policy somewhere in the
Yeah,
process
legislation.
needs to be involved so that it can actually recognize
Right.
where is a yes and where is a no, when
Yeah.
it is really affecting our growth and humanity and our connection. So, yeah.
And I know we have a lot of other problems to be addressed.
Yes.
But at some point, I think legislation needs to get involved in that also, and
In that
start having
process.
some
Yes.
sanctions.
In that process, you know, I'm a little old fashioned anyway. So,
Like,
you know, I if I can, I will avoid doing my own groceries and, you know, checking out
Right.
my own groceries, because I actually, even if we're in line complaining about how slow the line is, that is still communication with someone else. Those are
Yeah.
still interactions that are necessary for people to have, to be humans,
Connection.
to be connected.
Yeah.
And, you know, people running and they're checking out their own groceries and running out and that sort of thing. We're losing the opportunities to connect in all different ways.
Yes.
And so we have to think about that in the future, about what is it to be human.
It is. It's, you know, it's that familiar face in our grocery store we go to and say hello to.
Absolutely.
And how's your day? And when we don't see that person that served us, is, you know, like how it impacts us.
How it
It's-
impact-
yeah,
exactly.
It really does,
And
more
that-
so than we
and that's
realize.
the basis of the work that we do,
Yeah.
right? It's about human connection.
Yes.
Right. And our suicide rates are going up and left and right. And I think that has something to do with people do not have those human connections the way
Yes.
they used to have those connections. You never know when you're standing in a grocery line if somebody's going to say the right thing at the right time to that
Right.
right person.
A smile.
Right.
A smile,
Right.
Smile.
or even that
Yeah.
person in line. How many times have you done that? Because this is your woman. When a child, because you guys are women, when a child is misbehaving and the parent can't
Yes.
control them, you look
Yes.
at that child like, you better get it together.
Yes,
You look at you're helping to raise that child that's acting up in the grocery store. Those
Because it takes a village.
It takes
It
a
takes a
village.
village.
It takes a village. It's like, I'm going to give you that stern look that your mother can't give you right now. So you get it together. We're doing this together, so that human contact is just super important. We can't iterate that enough.
Oh my God, I'm just so excited, you being a doctor in the field of
I know,
psychology,
I
taking
know.
this on, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's beyond
The
beyond.
camaraderie
Yes.
goes to another level. Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, when I was here the last time that incident happened, and my friend was with me, a girlfriend of mine, and the little boy started wailing. I mean, and I turned around and said, "Hi, what's your name? And what's bothering you?" And he just stopped and looked at me. And then we got on the elevator. He wouldn't dare cry. He just kept looking at my friend, said, "You didn't even give him a chance to say, ah." You were on it, and he stopped. You know, and how many relationships do we even develop with a person just being in line, and have,
Exactly.
and that person turns out to be a networking opportunity in some way.
Absolutely.
And you find out that your purposes are connected. And this was like that movie years ago, Crash, where all of these people
Yes.
ended up joining together and having a purpose.
Having
How
a
do you
purpose.
do that with robots? And having to do your own groceries, so you don't have time to talk in the line because you're busy checking your own self out.
It is.
I think, though, the human spirit, though, is such that when you think about this, they do long for personal contacts. Think about how, as we got more and more technology, we also opened more coffee shops so people could slow down and talk and have a conversation.
Yes.
Those kind of came because people were craving getting out and just having a cup of coffee with someone else. So coffee shops have went,
Oh, they have.
they have just went on
Amazing.
everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
about human contact. I think that craving for human contact will never ever go away, but we have to facilitate that and have to know that that's important.
So let's talk just a little bit about the Me Too movement and sexual.
Ooh.
Ew, yeah. So I
Yes.
know we already did a session in that, but it'd be kind of nice to see, you know,
from your
perspective,
from your mindset
Yes.
of legislation, as a psychologist yourself,
you know,
some things that you think might need to happen, to protect women in these cases. Because especially we talked on one episode about domestic violence, and with domestic violence, it's they don't do anything until something happens to you, and this is how the law works. So what can we do differently that's going to prevent something from, address it before it happens, not be reactive but proactive.
Right. I mean, here in Indiana, we can kind of merge these two conversations together just a little bit. We have thousands and thousands of rape kits that have never been processed. Have never, so people, women that are being abused or domestically or sexually abused or whatever, they're not investigating those at the level. So there's no punishment. There's nothing for these people that are the perpetrators of this. So we're behind in that here in Indiana at least, and I understand it's across the nation as well. But so those things aren't being punished. The Me Too movement is very, very critical, very, very important in that women are starting to be heard more. We do have to get just a little bit better at weeding out those. For every good movement, there's also others negative factions that will jump into a movement and will ruin that movement because they come in with the bad intentions, and we do have women that lie. We do have women that will use their children to get what they want, or they're upset about that because we both know about borderline personality disorders and what happens in those situations. So we do have to be better at recognizing that there's a small percentage of women that misrepresent the situations for their benefits, and we have to weed that out really quickly. It's not across the board. It's like saying children don't lie. Yeah, they do. Yeah, some of them do.
Mine
but
too.
Yes,
yes, they do.
So we have to make sure that there's an avenue for people who have been accused to actually, that aren't guilty, to make sure that they're protected as well.
Yes, I would agree.
But so we can have this conversation forward to say that most women that have complained or have had these issues, these crisis issues, they need to be heard and need to be dealt with, and they need to have a voice, and they need to have those supports they need, and they need to have retribution in some way, because those situations are life altering, and it goes with them from generation to generation, and we have to do all we can to make sure we don't keep reducing that.
We gotta wrap up. We've got 2 minutes, and I think we can just sit here and talk more and more forever. So I'd like to just offer you the opportunity in terms of women's issues. Like, is there anything else that has showed up since we started having a conversation that you like to bring to the table?
Oh gosh, you know what? You brought up some things on the table. We were talking about the conversation about immigrants.
Oh yes.
And one of my concerns, I know that with 2025 and a lot of the Project 2025 and this. When Trump gets in office, we're not going to allow that to happen, but this idea, this mass deportation and all this stuff,
Homeland Security being disbanded, and that suggestion alone
is so cruel and unnecessary, and it's not who we stand for as a country. It's not who we should be. We need to quit using undocumented and documented people as a tool to pit people against each other, to say that they're taking black jobs.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? They're taking black jobs. So that says a lot about the person who says that too. What is a black job? And we're kind of stuck on that. But it's ironic that someone would say that. But also, while they're pitting minority against minority, and trying to make an issue out of things that aren't, because there are drugs that come in this country, but it's coming through those big trucks and through those big businesses, not under any wall or over any walls or whatever. That's not how it's coming over here, and we know that. They know that. They're not releasing crazy people over to the United States. None of that is happening. So if they can find a few cases,
that they amplify them.
They amplify them.
We're not over here committing crimes ourselves.
Oh yes, exactly.
This is it's so inhumane.
And not to mention how many crimes we go across the border and create.
So true.
You Americans go across the border and create over there in Mexico. So we got to quit using migrant workers and immigrants as a political pawn, because it's cruel, it's mean, and it's just not true, considering how much they add to our economy. How we could not function as we're functioning now without those workers that are coming over, and they're adding to us, not taking from us. But I worry, this is my real concern, I'm worried that it's not about deportation. It's not about this. It's about having a subservient, scared, fearful group of people that they can exploit, underpay, have all kind of issues, so that they can keep them in a subservient, scared position, so they can pay them anything, abuse them in any kind of way. And that's what we need to fight against.
And you know, we are pretty much out of town, and that is my subject, so we can actually have 30-minute conversation. Yes, on it. As a border town girl, as somebody that's done research in that area and understands how much economy they bring into the community.
Absolutely.
Like, we just got to get together.
We got to get together. We're on the same page. Yes. We are on the same page on this.
Oh, it's
so know that when I get to Washington, that's you know where I sit. You know where my heart is.
Our heart is going with you.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
You know, I love it in Washington, and I just love what you're doing, what you represent, my community, you know, Latinas. I have a nonprofit. I just believe in the tapestry of this country, which is everyone in our humanity. So having 2 more minutes, Lisa, you want to say something?
Well, I'm just glad that Dr. Valerie McCray her heart is where it is with the immigration situation. I want people to know 2 things, okay? Before you vote for, this to happen, that if these people had the choice, their country is a lot more prettier and beautiful than ours.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
And if they had the choice, they would stay there. Take into consideration that if you had a child, and they're threatening to put your child in a cartel to run drugs at 9 years old, would you not fight for your life to get away from there? Lastly, the cost of becoming documented. These people are working for, as you stated, very little money, because people know who hire them that they fear deportation. So they're going to keep you hiding in quiet.
Yes, they do.
Right?
Yes,
and exploit you. And how do you get the money to become documented?
Exactly.
All right, we have 1 more minute left, Dr. Valerie. I just want to add so much more to that.
Like, I could talk to you all day.
We could talk to you
all day. And you just to add, a lot of people that exploit them, what they do, they know when they're going to get paid, so they know the day they're going to get paid, so they call immigration a day before so they can actually take them back to the South and deport them and not have to pay so much amount of money. So, and then they put stores so that they buy their groceries right at their particular store, hiking up prices. So again, we can go on.
It's a big problem.
It's a big problem. It is a big problem
on
that
many levels.
Well, I am thrilled again and again,
well.
and I'm so looking forward to seeing you win.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to put you on social media talking about this subject and take you to my hometown. So anyway,
I can't wait to go.
Yes, I am Dr. Luz Maria.
And I'm Lisa Frank, and this has been another great episode, part 2 with Dr.
Valerie McCray. Yes, different voices.